Welcome back to the SCIF. As you can see, I am here with me, myself, and I. I got my puppy in the room here with me. But Stu may or may not be joining the show, just like last week. He had another business thing that sort of came up that he needs to take care of. So we may be seeing Stu, we may not. In between then, we are the Green Beret Life. I am Matt. We are a nonprofit 501c3. Basically, you guys know what we do. We provide a place for veterans and first responders to get together and do things in the outdoors. We also train the public. We are very firearm centric, so we do a lot of firearms training, pistol, rifle, shotgun, but we also do other things as well. We do some survival stuff. We do land navigation. We do military prep. We do a bunch of things. And there's a bunch of things that we can do. If you're interested in the class and you want to get us up somewhere, if you have a group of people together, just reach out to us and ask. You can get a hold of us at TheGreenBeretLife@gmail.com and send us an email. Or if you want to even comment on the show, if you want to be on the show, reach out and get a hold of us there. We were going to talk about something last week, and I pushed it to this week, but I really want Stu to be on the show when we talk about it, and that's this fatwa against dogs that all of these Islamists that have moved into Western Europe and the United States, Canada, they're all trying to push through right now. And I think it's very, very important that patriots in these countries stand up and say, if you're coming to our country and you're trying to change us and bring what you had over there here, you're not welcome here. If you want to come and you want to join us, you want to be part of us, you want to assimilate into our culture and what we do here, you're welcome. But you want to come and bring what you had over there and change our country? No dice on that. And I think everybody would look at that. The majority of people would look at that and say that's reasonable. The other side, of course, will scream racism and everything else. It is nothing like racism. But that being what it may, when the other side screams, they're there to destroy, by the way. We've got to ignore them, right? So I want to talk about something right off the bat. We're going to get into Iran. We're going to get into the deep state effort, especially emanating out of Great Britain, to try to hurt Donald Trump and to try to hurt the worldwide economy, try to hurt the U.S. economy, right? We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about the replacement for the supreme leader, Mujtaba Khamenei, right, which is the son of the former Khamenei, right, who is now no longer with us, for lack of a better term. And we're going to talk about him a little bit. We're going to talk about this attempted terrorist attack in New York by these two teens from Pennsylvania, right? We're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But what I want to kick off tonight talking about is something that has been being kicked around for quite a while, the SAVE Act. And the SAVE Act is basically it's already been passed by the House. The SAVE Act is basically a voter ID, proof of citizenship law, and it also does some stuff with mail-in ballots. Basically, it greatly restricts the ability to commit fraud during elections. That's what the SAVE Act is all about. It's not restricting people that are supposed to vote from voting in any way, shape, or form. It's restricting fraud. Now, we know that a certain element of our government wants fraud. That should be clear to anybody with a brain, especially anybody that's lived through 2020 and subsequent elections afterwards, right? One side of the political aisle, the Democrats, right, do want, in my opinion, this is my opinion, they want to replace their voters. The Democrat voting base cannot be relied on, right, for Democrats. And in order for them to keep themselves in power, they need to flood the countries with illegals. That was obvious during the Biden administration when we let somewhere upwards of 20 million plus illegals into this country. Not only did we let them into this country, we really don't know who they are. We kicked them out to all four corners of the country via these non-governmental organizations, NGOs, right, that we paid billions of our taxpayer dollars to. And a lot of these NGOs are major religions too, okay, who partnered up to destroy our country with many people who persecute Christians in their own countries. So just think about that for a second, right? So in addition to that, we have we have an establishment that's entrenched that has an R next to their name. You've heard us talk about on this show many times. It's an infection that's throughout the House. It's an infection that's in the Senate, and in the Senate, it's especially clear. You see, we have an individual. That's the leader of the Senate. His name is John Thune, and John Thune was Mitch McConnell's handpicked, basically handpicked guy, for lack of a better term. John Thune, last election cycle, was going to retire. McConnell implored him to stay in. McConnell is disgraced. He's an absolute disgrace. He worked actively against Trump during his first administration. He's been working against Trump this administration. In the midterms, he worked against Republicans. So anybody who was a Trump-backed Republican, because McConnell was the Senate leader at the time, was able to manipulate election funds for the Republican Party from certain candidates to others. So they were able to manipulate something up in Alaska, this ranked choice voting, because Lisa Murkowski was going to get voted out. So a way they could save her was through ranked choice voting. And that lost us actually some House seats, by the way. And we got Lisa Murkowski again. And you can rely on Lisa Murkowski to go against Donald Trump on almost about everything. Susan Collins out of Maine, Lisa Murkowski, Mitch McConnell. Now you enter somebody like John Thune, who the Senate voted to be the leader of the Senate. John Thune has been a rhino to his core for a long time. And the sad thing, he's from South Dakota. South Dakota is a pretty solidly red state. But they keep sending this rhino. And I've always said rhinos are a bigger problem than Democrats. And I truly mean that, right? We've gotten rid of some rhinos here recently. You saw that Dan Crenshaw was beaten in a primary, and he's gone. So that is a positive. This is how you deal with rhinos. You primary them, right? So John Thune has been actively working against President Trump from the very beginning, from even getting Trump's recess appointments. He made it so when the Senate was in recess, where Trump could actually appoint people for I believe a term of 180 days that can then be renewed for another 180 days because they're having difficulty getting Democrats to approve Trump's picks in the Senate. That's another thing that we're going to bring up here because it's key to all of this, what I'm getting to. And John Thune actually created a quorum where, even though the Senate was in recess, they would open for like 2 minutes. It's some little small thing that they could do to make it impossible for it to say Senate was in recess and then Trump could appoint these recess appointees. He made it impossible for Trump to do that by doing this. Okay. So as you're going to see with some of our allies in the deep state, with Great Britain, and another story that I'm going to bring up, we actively have congressmen and senators that are working against your will. If you voted for Donald Trump, they're working against your will. Absolutely. Okay. And give me 1 second here because I'm trying to bring up Rumble so I see some of your comments on Rumble. So be patient with me for 1 second and let me bring this up because I just noticed, without having Stu here, some of these things I need to do that I haven't done ahead of time. I've been derelict in my responsibilities. So here we go. So I want to make sure I get you guys, if you are making comments, that I get your comments. So anyways, getting back to the rhino establishment that's within here and that's destroying everything. So this attack from within, you'll have a John Thune who's on the outside says all the right things. He says things that would make him seem like a conservative, like he's pro-America, like he's America first. And sometimes he votes for things. If his masters want him to vote for it, he'll vote for it. Now you got to understand basically what feeds the rhino class within the House and in the Senate is money, special interest money. And you're going to say, well, what do you mean special interest money? Well, we all know that there are several big special interests that have a lot of sway. Now, these are by far not the only ones, but these are the ones that everybody can relate to because they know they're big. Okay, so you have the military industrial complex, which everybody refers to, but it's big military, right? All the big contractors, all of the Raytheons of the world and the big the companies that make all of our armaments, and there's many. I'm not picking on Raytheon. There's many that do that. Okay, and I'm not saying these are necessary and good industries, but these industries are concerned about their interests and their interests only, right? So then you have the pharmaceutical industry, right? You have the pharmaceutical industry who's gigantic, right? You'll have the lawyers get together, the whole legal side. Everybody has their own special interest. And then we have an organization called the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is made up of these big behemoth companies. Just think of companies like Walmart and other big manufacturing or industries, big ag. These are all special interests, right? So U.S. Chamber of Commerce is very interesting. And the simple fact is, most people in this country don't want illegal aliens here. But most of these companies that are involved in the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, or many of these companies, benefit from illegals being in the United States. Why? Because A, they get welfare benefits, which sounds absolutely insane. How does a country survive by giving illegals welfare benefits, right? But they get welfare benefits. That means they have money to spend, right? They also get free housing, right? So free housing means that there's more money to be had from the federal government to house illegal aliens. They get medical care. They get education. Each one of these represents a special interest, right? So if special interests are making all of this money on illegal aliens, why would they want them to leave? In addition, manufacturing wants the cheap labor that illegal aliens, and even migration period, mass migration that's not controlled, even if it's legal, all of what that brings in is they can pay them less than what they'll pay the American worker. You often hear, hey, Americans won't do this job, right? Well, that is such a bullshit line when you hear that. The reason why Americans don't do this job anymore is because illegal labor and it's often hard work, made the labor so cheap that Americans won't do it for the price that they're paying this illegal labor to do it, right? So this is why big industry wants them here. So if big industry wants them here, they're able to fund campaigns and get these politicians elected over and over and over again. And many times they can also chase people that are within our federal agencies. And how do they do that? Well, federal agencies control a lot of the law and the legal aspects that control these businesses on the outside. So if you can get a hold of somebody and basically they know that they have a guaranteed position that's going to pay them twice as much as what they make in the government, or when they're waiting till they retire and get a government pension and then go make one of these big paying jobs, well, guess what? Don't you think they're going to be a little sympathetic when they're dealing with something that has to do with legalities of pharmaceuticals, agricultural, military, anything? Give me 1 second. My dog is not being a pain in the ass. He wants out. So I'm going to let him out of the room here. Give me 1 second. Okay. I apologize for that. Usually he's really quiet. I don't know what was going on this time. He wants to be in here, and now he doesn't. So anyways, what am I getting at in the SAVE Act? Well, the Republicans really don't give a shit. The establishment Republicans, and I've said this before because I believe they intentionally tanked the midterms in 2018 to expose Donald Trump to impeachment by the Democrats, right? Now, Republicans couldn't survive by supporting impeachment, but if they allowed the impeachment to happen because they just happened to lose the midterms, right? No harm, no foul. We've seen these people, the longer they stay in the Congress, the longer they stay in the Senate, they seem to generate huge amounts of wealth, right? and then they get free health care for life. And the whole thing is disgusting when you see it. Now, that being said, we do have a section called the Freedom Caucus, which is generally very, very trustworthy. Okay. They are the non-rhinos. Okay. But they're the ones that are usually attacked by the rhinos, by mainstream conservative media, such as Fox News. Right. So what they are doing right now, we've introduced the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act passed in the House, and now it's gotten to the Senate, and the Senate has held it up. And the usual cast of characters, McConnell, Thune, Murkowski up in Alaska, they're standing in the way. It's Republicans control the Senate, right? So they're hiding behind some stupid rule, just like when Trump's appointees were there was this blue slip rule that allowed Democrats to, in a specific state, to complain and object, and the Republicans would not vote or allow the vote to take place in order to get Trump's appointee passed. Okay, Democrats wouldn't give the Republicans this any time, day, or place ever. They would get rid of, but for some reason, to the Republicans, these blue slips are so important. This little rule that they have with the Democrats, as far as being reasonable and allowing the Democrats to block Trump's appointees to get things done, right? And you can see the result of that is James Comey walking free on everything that he's done because they didn't have a prosecutor in place, right? The temporary prosecutor said, well, she wasn't confirmed by Congress or the Senate, and she's not legitimate. So you have judges making rulings allowing these things to happen. So that's why everybody's looking at the Trump administration saying, I want to see arrests. Well, I want to see arrests too. But when you have the Republican Party getting away with actively working against Donald Trump and everything that he's trying to do, you're going to see a pattern here throughout this show. When you see a Republican Party that is actively working against Donald Trump, the SAVE Act should be a slam dunk home run, no questions about it. It is putting serious restrictions on mail-in ballots. It is making sure that you have an ID to vote and making sure that you're a legal citizen to vote. That's basically what it is when you break it down to its plainest and most simplest form. John Thune is going to bring it before the Senate. Okay, he hasn't said this yet, but this is what people think he's going to do. Okay, he's going to bring it, and he's going to bring the vote to the floor next week. And he's going to bring the vote, and he's going to say there has to be a 60 vote threshold, knowing they don't have a 60 vote threshold because they don't have the numbers of Republicans within the Senate. Now, the Democrats, if they were bringing a piece of legislation that they wanted passed, would say, we're getting rid of this no filibuster rule. And it's not going to be a 60 vote threshold. They have many things that they would do. John Thune refuses to do, and he's refusing to do it because he's saying we just don't have enough support, right? Well, I apologize that I can't bring these stories up. I don't know how to do it. Stu usually does this, but I'm going to read it to you, or sections from it anyways, okay? So John Thune is going to try to kill this. This is how he's going to try to kill it, but he's going to kill it doing what he always does, making himself look like he's really for it, right? So the Faust Freedom Caucus posted on X on Tuesday regarding Thune's comments. If Thune plans, this is what they're saying, if Thune plans to kill the Save America Act by bringing it to the floor at the 60 vote threshold, he isn't fooling anybody. Americans don't want performance theater. They want the Senate GOP to actually fight for them by using the talking filibuster to pass the Save America Act. Trump has vowed, Trump is pushing back against Thune, saying, look, he said, I'm not going to sign virtually any bill until the Save America Act is passed and it reaches his desk. So this is what's going on with John Thune. Please don't think that John Thune is working for you, that John Thune is working for the Americans who put him in there, his constituency in South Dakota, or any of us. He's not working for America's best interest. He's working at the behest of special interests who have him bought and paid for. That's who he's working for. So he will flush our election system down the drain, flush our future down the drain, expose us to more Barack Obamas and Joe Bidens and all of the crap we got in the House and the Senate right now, because for the short term, special interests don't want it. This is an absolute disgrace. I implore you to call your senators and to call the main Senate switchboard and demand that they use the filibuster, because the Democrats sure would, and they make sure that the Save America Act gets passed anyway, any shape, anyhow, in the form it is right now, without being completely destroyed. He is an absolute disgrace, and these other rhinos in the Senate are an absolute disgrace as well, and in the Congress. We have to start identifying these people, and they need to have their ass primaried. And I think we need to get big business completely out of Congress and the Senate. They should not have any influence whatsoever. Big businesses aren't electing these people. Citizens are electing these people and their constituents. And you can see that big entities don't give a shit about the welfare of our country. They don't. They care about short-term profit. That's it. That being said, we need businesses, and we need business to be healthy. So the Republican Party needs to be pro-business. But we do not allow our electoral system to be corrupted via these big entities who really are not concerned with the future of our country other than short-term profit. Period. Amen. That's what I'm going to say about it. And I do want to make a comment. Freedom US says we need term limits too. 24% of current Congress has 12 years or more experience in at least one chamber. Freedom's 100% correct. It's 100% correct. We cannot have these congressmen and these senators that just stay there forever. Chuck Grassley, even John Thune, Mitch McConnell are perfect examples of all of this. It's an administrative deep state that we cannot get rid of. So we need to make sure that this is all sorted out, and we have to start getting serious. We have to do what those patriots in Texas did. We need to primary these individuals. John Thune should be up for a primary next time he runs. But here's the deal. Here's how they've got us over a barrel. Because this is Mitch McConnell's last term, right? And right now, I'm not quite sure how the rules work in Kentucky, okay? But right now, Kentucky has a governor that's a Democrat, Andy Beshear, right? So if we've got such a small majority in the Senate, if Mitch McConnell were to say, hey, I'm just quitting today, where does that leave us? I know as we speak, I believe tonight, there's a special election to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia. But look at the amount of time that it took not having that extra House seat until now. I mean, this is nuts. So they've manipulated. We have Lisa Murkowski, which I bet you if you break down this ranked choice voting, the majority of Alaskans did not want, right? We need to get rid of these rhinos. They need to go, and they need a strong, strong message. And you need to contact your senators. You need to contact the GOP. You need to contact the Senate. And you need to let these people know that they better pass this SAVE Act. Period. Amen. They had better pass this SAVE Act. And we need, and if they don't, anybody, any one of these senators that has proven that they're really not for the American people and not supporting Donald Trump's his push for some of these things right here, because we voted for this. If they're not going to support that, we don't want them. So maybe we need to get back into recall elections. Maybe we need to, in addition to primaries, the Senate is unusual because they have 6 years. The House is every 2 years, right? So there's lots of primaries for the House. The Senate, not so much, right? So we need to get control of this, or we're going to lose our country. If we allow these clowns to play this game, we're going to lose our country. And we're going to lose it to illegals. That's what we're going to lose it to. If you see what's going on in Great Britain right now, and here I'm going to transfer, okay? Great Britain they've been conquered, for lack of a better term. The government over there is absolutely disgusting. It's disgusting. If you go to Great Britain today, you won't see British people. You will not see British people. And the majority of these mid-sized cities throughout Great Britain all have Muslim mayors now. And when they've got a prime minister over there, his name is Keir Starmer, and he's an absolute disaster. You may know that, about a year ago, Elon Musk was going after Keir Starmer because he was covering up for these Pakistani grooming gangs that were involved with the gang rape of underage British girls. And they were hiding it from the public because they didn't want outrage and pushback against all of these new British people that they've imported into that country in order to keep themselves in power, right? The deep state that's throughout Europe. There's an administrative deep state that's so entrenched through a lot of these European countries, okay? But Great Britain is one of the worst. They're absolutely terrible. I have spent some time in Italy here, not in the recent past, but hey, I got Dan and Cindy on YouTube. Hey guys, Italy. It seems like the people, they've got Giorgia Meloni, and they're trying to push back. The people of Italy, I really see this, okay? And some of the other European countries are too. But boy, you look at France, you look at Great Britain, you look at Spain. My goodness, it's sad. You're seeing these cultures that are thousands of years old getting destroyed. People are in those countries feel unsafe in their own countries. And they're having to capitulate to all of the third world, and pretty much Islam is what they're sort of having to capitulate to via force from their federal government. It's an absolute travesty. So the war with Iran, if you want to call it a war, the attacks to remove this Ayatollah regime in Iran kicked off. And Great Britain refused to allow us to use Diego Garcia, any of their bases, basically, Scotland, any of them, and did not participate in anything. And Trump excoriated him, Keir Starmer, publicly. And then Keir Starmer wanted to change his mind and then wanted to send an aircraft carrier. And Trump's like, yeah, we don't need your aircraft carrier, to be honest. You don't have much of a military anymore. You've gutted it, just like you've gutted your country, right? And we'll remember this next time. We don't want friends that, I'm paraphrasing here, that basically join in to help once the war's already been won, right? We don't need you. You're no Winston Churchill, period, amen, right? That's basically what Trump said, okay? But in addition to that, you started to see the price of oil skyrocket. And by no means, Keir Starmer's a complete lightweight. He is a puppet. He is being run by the deep state, okay? Period, amen, right? But here's how it works. So you start to see the price of oil skyrocket, despite the fact that we have put the complete Iranian Navy on the sea floor. That's what we've done. They're done. They're gone, okay? But Lloyd's of London, which is a major insurer for the oil cargo that goes back and forth through the Straits of Hormuz. You guys have all seen that little tip that all the Gulf states and all the oil coming from the Middle East primarily goes through the Straits of Hormuz. So it's kind of like a choke point. It's like a little fatal funnel, right? If you were going to do an ambush, this is where it would happen, right? And you see a little point where it comes up and it forces the water around the point, and it's just a choke point, a perfect choke point. Okay, so despite that, Lloyd's of London and other insurers basically said, we're not going to insure any oil cargo going through the Straits of Hormuz, because they're saying if one tanker went down, then it could permanently destroy that insurance company, which is a bunch of bullshit, because the risk of a tanker being attacked in that area has been pretty high for quite a long time, right? So despite the Iranian Navy being on the sea floor, there's still a threat of these drones, these low-tech drones that are very effective that they have, that is probably using some sort of technology that they stole from somewhere else, if you know what I'm saying, right? And but even those, because we've been so effective in Iran hitting where they make these and where they launch them, right? And then you also have a bit of a threat from mines that are being laid in the Straits of Hormuz. You know, if a ship hits one of those mines, it'll blow a hole in the side of that ship. You'll have oil, everything. It'd be a mess, right? So while we've destroyed the Navy, if you saw what we were doing in Venezuela with and I'm combining two stories here, okay? If you saw what we were doing in Venezuela with the drug boats, the technology that we use with that, we're using that to identify any boats that could possibly be placing mines. So the Trump administration earlier on today had stated that they had destroyed 10 of these boats that lay mines, and they're gone. And then they updated it a little bit later saying 16 of these boats have been destroyed. How does that get back to Lloyd's of London saying they refuse to insure cargo going through? Well, when they did this, the Trump administration basically said, okay, well, then the United States will insure your oil cargo going through there. Keep the boats going, right? Keep the boats going. Okay. Well, now Lloyd's of London, who's refusing to insure any of these boats, goes back to their customers and says, hey, if you work with the United States, right? If you work with the United States, then we're going to punish you on the back end. So now, and the media doesn't really cover this. You have to really pay attention to see what's going on with all of this. So now you know that this wasn't organic, and this wasn't insurance companies concerned about insuring boats through the Straits of Hormuz. This was an intentional hit to try to drive the price of oil up, to try to turn public attention in the United States against Donald Trump and his actions in the Middle East. And you're saying, why would they want to why wouldn't they want to get rid of the Iranian regime? The deep state has been manipulating the Middle East for conflict to their benefit for years. This is what they thrive and live off of, conflict, right? And if you can even break it down to a little simpler, and I'm just throwing this out there, the price, if there's an element of serious danger, the price of insuring a ship going through the Straits of Hormuz is going to be X, which is going to be significantly higher than when that ship is transversing waters where they don't have much to worry about as far as being attacked, right? So that's less money that they can charge, right? So today, the Trump administration, or yesterday, started the process of finding shippers and countries to work with, and they are escorting the boats through the Straits of Hormuz. And you saw yesterday the price of oil that they had up to $120 a barrel plus, right? Dropped down to 70 and then sort of evened out at around 80. Okay. So once again, the Trump administration, who the whole world is up against them, including people in our country, vote that people in our country that are rooting for Iran to win against us just because they hate Donald Trump so much. This is what's going on, right? And then the deep state, who Trump is really taking it to, okay, is fighting with everything they have in Ukraine to keep that war going, right here to manipulate with the worldwide oil price. We need to start focusing on what is really happening. Instead of saying, oh, well, everybody would want that. That makes no sense. Why wouldn't they want a terroristic regime gone? You have to start digging deeper and looking into it. And I know I'm not telling you guys anything because most of the people who listen to this show are already doing that. You guys are already digging deep and looking into things, right? Just the fact that this show on YouTube here, this show is hidden on YouTube. We know it. Not that this is a big show or anything else. There's far bigger shows that have just been taken off of YouTube, right? And have never returned, right? Some of them have come back during this administration, but you see what they do. They hide it in the algorithm. They start taking subscribers away just phantomly, right? Have you ever paid attention to how you're unsubscribed to things that you were subscribed to, right? It just bunches of little things, but then they hide it. If you go and look for this show on YouTube, it's gotten better. But if you type in the name of our show, The Green Beret Life, if you type that in on YouTube, look how far down it is. And boy, up until recently, it was like pages down, right? You would see everything else. You'd see all stuff that had to do with Green Berets and this and that and the other thing. But look how far down it is. Okay, this is what they do. I'm not saying that we're important or we're a real threat to anybody, because we're not, right? But this is what they've been doing for years. And when you see this and you hear how the news is saying, oh, Lloyd's of London is concerned that they're going to, if one ship went down, it could permanently destroy this iconic insurance company forever. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. They are using the insurance carriers that are using Great Britain. They're using everything they can possibly do to try to hurt this administration, this country, which means you and me, right? And anybody in the world who's pushing for freedom. Anybody in the world who's pushing for freedom. And you can see at all of the bullshit that went on with these female soccer players, these Iranian soccer players in Australia here recently, where Trump had to make a big scene because Albanese, the prime minister of Australia, was going to send them back when the Iranian Republican Guard said they were going to kill him. They were writing SOS because they had Iranian Republican Guard holding them hostage while they were in Australia. So Trump had to bring it to the world's attention, and now they're going to be given asylum. It looks like Stu is just joining us right now. I am going to bring him in, and I'm going to give him just a quick update on what we've been talking about and where we're going. Hey, Stu.
Hey, how is everyone? Sorry. Work
Oh.
calls. Gotta keep the lights on, keep the bills paid.
I got to turn the volume down here because I have you on a separate TV as well. Can you hear yourself in the background?
I don't, it's not coming through.
You haven't heard yourself at all?
I have not.
Okay, I'm trying to get the volume at the right level because you're blowing my freaking ears out. Okay. So basically, we were talking about John Thune and the SAVE Act and how he's going to try to kill it by bringing it to the floor under a 60-vote threshold, most likely, right? So people need to call, right? We've been talking about what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. And thanks, Cindy. Cindy and Dan are joining us on YouTube.
Right? Outstanding.
We've had Freedom commenting on Rumble. Can you pull things up like you normally do, Stu? Because it's harder for me to watch this than
I've got it. The only live chat I see is what Freedom did about the term limits in Congress.
Mm-hmm.
I see both. I've got the YouTube and the other.
Okay. So we were talking about what I'm getting into right now is how the deep state is basically using Great Britain and Lloyd's of London and the whole facade that went on about the insurance thing. And then when Trump offered insurance to these carriers that Lloyd's of London couldn't offer insurance to, Lloyd's of London threatened them if they were to work with the United States, right?
Really?
So this is and Keir Starmer not letting the United States use Diego Garcia or any of their bases, and then all of a sudden wanted to send an aircraft carrier when he got pushed back, right? This is all an attempt.
Wasn't it Spain that wouldn't let us use our base there too?
Spain wouldn't either, but it was Keir Starmer in Great Britain, and that's who Trump's been fighting with the last several days. And then when they offered to send an aircraft carrier, Trump's like, "We don't need it. The war's already."
Yeah, day late, dollar short, pal.
Yeah, we'll remember that next time you need us, right? So we also hold the cards here with NATO. Right, we hold the cards with NATO, and if NATO isn't going to be an ally to us, why are we funding NATO? Because we fund NATO. Period. We're defending all of these countries. We should pick out countries that we can work with. You know, right now we have a pretty good relationship with some of the Eastern European countries. We have a pretty good relationship with Italy. We even have a decent, even though they're in big trouble over there in Germany, relationship with Germany. But Great Britain, Spain, France, some of these allies are no longer allies of ours.
We should take our NATO funding and just as a percentage, we only have to do it by the dollar, but
Mhm.
whatever percentage the lowest contributing member is,
Mhm.
as I think they have to do it as a of their defense spending or GDP. I forget which one it is, but whatever percentage the lowest person is contributing should be what the U.S. contributes.
Well, yeah, I
So
agree. Or
not
we could
necessarily
say,
a
hey,
flat dollar
we've
figure, but just percentage wise. If you're only
well,
contributing 0.5%, that's all we're going to contribute.
well, we don't even have to. We can just say, look, we funded this thing since its inception. Right now, we're going to be involved, but we're not putting another dime in because we've
Well,
paid our dues in advance. Sorry.
other than stability in energy being oil and natural gas, what does the United States get out of NATO?
They get nothing out of NATO. They don't
Right.
there is no benefit the United States gets out of NATO. Maybe that when we're trying to remove and do the world a favor, a regime that sponsors more terrorism than anybody else in the world, we would get at least the ability to use some military bases of our
No, no,
allies.
no, no. We need to put Iran in the Human Rights Council.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's all bullshit. They're using this to try to tank our economy. So we've pretty much we've gotten to the end of this conversation. I want to talk about this individual that has been elected as the new supreme leader in Iran. Iran is being deconstructed as we speak, folks.
Well, hold on,
Now,
Matt. Before you get in there, did you talk about the what happened in New York? Did you
no,
bring that up?
we're gonna talk about that, Stu.
Okay.
Relax. You're getting out ahead of the game here,
We
right?
only got 20 minutes left. I
Yeah,
got something else too.
yeah. So,
Matt's been here with
um,
no adult supervision, so he's been on one topic for 41 minutes, I'm assuming.
no, it's been three mixed in. Anyways, um, this Iran is being systematically dismantled. They have no power. They're continuing to run their mouth. You do have a breakdown because you have the president of Iran. I don't have his name in front of me, but you have a significant disconnect between this president and the Iranian the Republican Guard. Okay, and he came out for an example 2 days ago and basically apologized to the Gulf states for launching missiles in their direction, whereas within a few hours, the Republican Guard was launching more missiles at Gulf states. Right now, that being said, their missile and their drone uh, uh, rates have fallen between 80 and 90%, which means they're running out of their stockpile.
The reserves
And
are running out.
yeah, and the U.S. and the Israelis have been hitting the facilities where they make and store these drones and their weapons. They're being systematically dismantled. So you enter this guy Mushtaba Khamenei, who is the son of the previous supreme leader, who never wanted his son to replace him. By the way, that was in his will, allegedly. Right now, Mushtaba, right, his family was killed, and he was supposedly injured in this attack. Nobody's seen him. In fact, they had a cardboard cutout of him when they elected him. Nobody has seen him since. And he's also been referred to in a term that's kind of like what we would refer to somebody who had a purple heart here, but somebody that has sacrificed in battle, right? Leading to the fact that this guy is injured or walking wounded. Is he injured? Is he dead? We don't know. Okay, but what we do know is that he can't show his face, either the fact that he's dead or he's injured, or he's so scared to show his face because he knows he's going to get smoked. Right now, there's not much there. Now, we talked last week that Kurds have amassed along the Iranian border, and I thought we were going to use them, but when you think about it, Trump didn't want to use them. Here's the reason why: the ethnic tensions in the Middle East are through the roof. Okay,
Yeah.
and while we may think the Kurds are, I've always said, from my experience over there, the Kurds are the people you can deal with, right? And that's why I've explained the Sufi, form of Islam as opposed to Salafist or the Shia form, right? And that's why the ethnic minorities would always go up north to Kurdistan in Iraq when big events happened, because it's more of a liberal, open-minded, thought process instead of everything so rigid, right? But everybody hates the Kurds that aren't Kurds, and for some reason, Kurds are the only people we could deal with. And in the past, we've even identified as divisions of Kurds as terrorist organizations, but we did that to pacify the Iranians and the Turks, right? Who notoriously hate Kurds, right? So we should never have ever done that. Remember, we talked about Saddam Hussein gassing hundreds of thousands of Kurds after they helped us in the first Gulf War? We allowed that, right? So anyways, we didn't use the Kurds, and probably a smart reason not to, for the simple reason that instead of trying to get unity afterwards, it could cause more division. I understand that. They're expecting that the Iranian people are going to rise up, but how can the Iranian people rise up if you still have the Republican Guard there, which is being severely diminished, but they're still there? You've got a police force there. Can you trust them? No, right? In my opinion, no, right? Because they were the militant wing of the government, right?
Well, and again,
So,
for decades, they've put the people in place that
mhm.
mimic and parrot their same beliefs. So when you're putting someone in place to enforce these edicts and these decrees, you're putting in place people that believe with them and agree with them.
Stu, you
So,
have a
and
simpler way of describing this that you've done a million times. When you put a lion among the gazelles, what are they going to do?
they're going to lie and shit. You don't have to
That's
train them.
exactly
You don't have to
that's
teach them. You don't have to show them. They're going to
no,
do what they do.
that's exactly what it is. So my point with all of this is, how do you get weapons? How do you get uh, some basic training to help the Iranian people be able to raise up and
Tell the
take the country
Iranians to go to Afghanistan and get all the guns and
back?
shit we left there.
But seriously,
What do you mean?
I don't know how we're going to do this. I don't know how you're going to do that without some level of special operations involvement, and probably already going on. To be honest with you, you're going to have it there, because they're going to have to be organized. They're going to be assisted, obviously, by the greatest air power ever shown, right, to the world,
Yeah.
which is happening right now. They're going to be assisted by that, but you have to get them weapons, and you have to get them some sort of training, and not quite sure how that's going to happen, but it's going to happen. We have been dramatically successful in everything we've done right now, and don't let anybody tell you anything different, because Iran does not exist the way Iran existed 10 days ago. Okay, it does not.
No.
Okay, and I think this war is going to be over. The price of oil has already come down, as we talked about, because Trump is smarter than the deep state, right? And this is going to end successfully. We need to stick with President Trump. We need to support our country. He's the only leader that's had the balls to take care of this problem and not kick the can down the road. So this went on and on and on, and was able to be used by the deep state to create fires every now and then, which is
Well,
basically
when you leave the boogeyman in place, then you can always be fighting against the boogeyman.
correct. Correct. So, Stu, I'm going to let you get back. I'm going to let you take us into this final story about Zoran Mandani and the two little shitheads, the two teens, right? These guys are
Two
right out. One's
youths.
in high school,
Two
one's out of
youths.
high school. Yeah. Emir Bala and Ibrahim Kayami, right? So, Kayumi.
So there was and shoot, I sent it to you. Let me pull it
Yeah.
out. So oh crap, I'm logged into your email. Son of a bitch.
Do you want me to read it, Stu, or do you want me to send it to you?
No, I'm logged into your email or was logged into your email and
You're
now
logged
it's
into my.
asking
How
me
are
for
you
my
logged into my?
password and
Are you, are you
that's a
talking about? Are you talking about the Green Beret Life's email? Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, yeah. Uh,
Okay. Well, I'll give you the background on what's going on before I know what Stu's going to bring up here.
So basically, what Mondami did, or there was an is basically a protest against Islamic takeover in New York City. And this guy by the name of Jake Long was the individual that was coordinating this protest. Well, during this protest, two teenagers, two youths decided to toss two IEDs into the crowd. These were self-contained bombs, probably, I don't know, about the size of the images I saw, maybe about the size of a softball. Looked like it was wrapped with duct tape with a fuse in it. And what these were an explosive packed with
it was,
nuts,
yeah,
bolts, washers, just like the Boston bombing.
and the explosive was an explosive called TATP, which is triacetone triperoxide, is what it is. And it's commonly it's a powerful explosive, but it's common products that most people can get, right, and put together.
One of the things I saw was that they were lucky because that is an explosive that is known to be impact sensitive. So it could, because the one thing that saved everything was that the fuses did not, or they self-extinguished. The fuses did not do their job. But these things, the explosive compound that they used was known to be impact sensitive. So, excuse me, we're
Well,
lucky that wasn't a part of it.
you saw the media try to put out a narrative that these were fake bombs too, by the way. That they
No,
were
I didn't
fake.
see the fake bomb thing.
Oh, yeah, they try to put out the narrative that they were inert or wouldn't, and then they had to recant all of that, and they had to recant more of what Stu's going to bring up here. Again, CNN tried to humanize the two youths, right? And also they've attacked, and you're going to see with what Stu's talking about, the individuals that were putting, mind you, the individuals that were putting on this protest were protesting the Islamization of New York. They weren't racist, they weren't white supremacists, and they were outside Mandami's house. Now, mind you, there's been a lot of discussion about, after October 7th, Mandami's wife cheering on the rape, murder, and destruction of innocent people, including infants. Okay, infants,
Jeez.
women, children. That's what went on October 7th. In case anybody's confused, okay, in case anybody's confused, there are videotapes put out. There's a movie done that everybody should go and watch. I haven't seen it, but I know what goes on over there, and I know what happened. Okay, and how anybody could have sympathy for Hamas or their cause at all. Their cause should have nothing. They should have zero respect for their cause at this stage. And I don't know what the hell's going on with Tucker Carlson. I don't know what the hell's going on. Candace Owens lost her mind a while back. But I don't know what's going on with a lot of these people that, I mean, when you see true evil, which is what occurred on October 7th, how could you take the side of that? It is beyond me, but go ahead, Stu.
I got into what I wanted to get into, Matt. Here's what I wanted to show everybody. So this whole thing happened. There was the protest against the Islamification of New York. There were Islamic supremacists that came in and threw bombs. Okay, this is the mayor of New York's Twitter post. He says, yesterday, white supremacist Jake Lang organized a protest outside of Gracie Mansion rooted in bigotry and racism. Such hate has no place in New York City. It is an affront to our city's values and the unity that defines who we are. What followed was even more disturbing. Violence at a protest is never acceptable. The attempt to use an explosive device and hurt others is not only criminal, it is reprehensible and the antithesis of who we are. I want to thank the brave men and women of blah, 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 blah. Okay. So what he said in these first two paragraphs, what is the impression you have of them?
Yeah, white
The
supremacists.
impression he is attempting to
Yeah,
give is that Jake Lang and the protesters are the ones who were involved with the violence and the explosive device. Because he runs those two together, he never differentiates anything. He starts out the post by talking about this white supremacist with rooted in bigotry and racism, and follows up with violence at a protest. Look, white supremacist Jake Lang organized a protest. Violence at a protest is never acceptable. That's what he's attempting to do. He's attempting to completely, obfuscate the fact that these were ISIS Muslim sympathizers that built these IEDs and attempted to detonate explosives at a protest. And right here from the New York Times, we have this right here. Federal prosecutors charged the two perpetrators while attempting to support the Islamic State. One of the men, Emir Balat, told the police he had hoped to cause a deadlier incident than a 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, which he noted caused only 3 deaths. This is who the governor of New York is covering for. This is the information they are trying to hide from the citizens of New York and the United States. This is what's going on. These are the people we are letting into our country and being
mhm.
told diversity is our strength. Meanwhile, our fucking diversity is staying off at protests, and they're covering it and trying to blame it on the innocent party.
Yeah,
Eh,
and you're seeing headlines: 2 Pennsylvania youths, right? Two
yes,
Pennsylvania men. We're getting back to that Maryland man again, right? That
yes.
whole bullshit, right? You cannot hate the media enough. You can't hate them enough. They're not rooting for America. They're not rooting for you, right? They're rooting for the destruction of America. Anybody who's pro all of this stuff, right? All the illegals that we've flooded into this country, the destruction to our economy, all of it. All of these people are pro destruction of America and destruction of you and your family and your future. That's what it's all about. So we got to stop. We got to stop acting like, oh, well, they're just got a different point of view, and we got to stop with this.
Yeah, but
And we've got
the
to hold our
whole
elected leaders accountable. I
well,
mean, anybody who,
all cultures are equal and
yeah,
all cultures deserve respect. No,
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 they
they
don't.
don't.
They don't.
You have a
So
culture that is bathed in blood, and the culture that is bathed in the that will use their children as shields and will strap devices to their children and send them out. No, I'm sorry. They're not equal to my culture. Not
absolutely
by a
not.
freaking mile. Sorry if
Absolutely
that hurts
not.
your feelings. Sorry if that's some sort of a phobic or ist or some other sort of statement. That culture and my culture are not compatible. They are
Yeah.
diametrically opposed to one
Cultures
another.
that do that should be shamed by the world. I mean, you could even
And,
say, look, you look at China. In China, they skin dogs alive. They skin
yeah,
dogs alive and they torture
well, hell, they had
animals.
the one
Is that,
child
yeah,
policy where,
yeah.
where people
It,
were killing their children.
yeah, throwing girls down wells. Should that culture be honored with favored nation trading status? It should not. That
Apparently.
culture sucks. That culture sucks. It's not compatible with anybody else in the world, and they should get worldwide shame. Nobody should trade with them, right? The same with these cultures that strap bombs to little kids and send them, and that go and murder innocent people because they're a different religion, right? In the Middle East. That's a little more complicated than that. But the things that happen on October 7th, there should be no sympathy for anybody that's associated with Hamas. Period. Amen. So we got to start. We got to start judging. You say, "Oh, don't judge. You shouldn't judge other bullshit. You shouldn't. Bullshit. You shouldn't. There's
All
the
right.
civilized world and there's the non-civilized world. If people want to
I've
join the
got I've
civilized
got
world, great, welcome.
I've
But
got one more story, Matt. I know we're at our stopping point here, but it's one I think we need to bring up real quick, 5 minutes. Have you seen what happened in Virginia?
Oh, with the gun story you're talking about? They're
Yes.
gonna, yes, they, you ought to hear these people. We have a foreigner from Bangladesh, a guy who
Yes.
emigrated here from Bangladesh, who introduced basically what's on the floor now that's been passed by the legislature in the
Yep.
Spamberger, Abigail Spamberger is going to sign it. That's going to basically ban ARs, and it's going to limit magazine capacity to under 15 rounds.
Yep.
So,
And like you said, this is a guy from Bangladesh. He was not even born here. He has immigrated here and is now restricting the rights of American citizens. But
is this the guy who introduced? I think you're going to show this video here. Is this the guy who introduces? Is this just another state legislator that
no,
doesn't know
this
what
is
the hell
just
he's
another
talking about?
support of it. But
Yeah.
the point of this video is to show that the people who are restricting your rights have
Mhm.
no idea what they're doing.
They're not even from here, and we're
Guarantee.
electing them into Congress because we're
And
flooding this country with shit. Is what's going on.
so this is a guy here talking about what is restricted in the bill. And I showed it to my wife, and my wife is not a gun person. I mean, she knows how to shoot, she knows gun safety, but she's not a gun person to the way, you know, Matt and I are and some of you guys are. And even she is looking at it and she's falling back and she's like, that guy's a fucking idiot. And I said, the thing is, I know what he's trying to say in the video because
Mhm.
I know what I'm talking about. He has no idea what he's talking about, and therefore he can't explain it.
Well, you
And
know, the problem with all of this is we're flooding our country with people we don't even know if they have a criminal past. A lot of them do, that are
yeah,
trafficking children, that are uh, here to do us harm, to leech off our system. So when I say we're flooding our country with shit, that's what we're doing. Now, are some good people coming here too that want to be Americans? Those aren't included in that question, because anybody who wants to come here and become an American and adopt our culture, right? We're all for it. I think the majority of America is for that. The left will call you racist. We got to stop. I started this at the very beginning. We got to stop allowing, because they're the true racist. We got to stop allowing them to use names to call us for what it is. Somebody that wants to come here from a foreign country and then change our constitutional rights and to take your rights away from you. That, think about this. That Jamila Pride pal, I talk about her all the time. She came over here for school, and now she is a prominent congresswoman. And she came over here, and one of the first things that she did was led an organization that kept the Bush administration from deporting something like 400,000 Somalis. Now look what we got. Well, not, maybe it wasn't 400. It was 4,000 Somalis, I think. But now look what we've got all throughout throughout Minneapolis and, you know, Lewiston, Maine, all of these places where you have
yeah.
organizations of people that have no intention of being America and actually have ill feelings towards Americans, and take to the tune in Minneapolis of $19 billion.
At a
So
minimum.
yeah, this is what we're looking at right here. So maybe we watch who we bring to our country. Maybe we bring only people to a country that want to be and can prove they want to be American, and we won't have Pennsylvania youths throwing IEDs in the middle of Americans exercising their First Amendment right peacefully, by the way, and then have the media refer to them as provocateurs. These are people that don't want their city turned into an Islamic shithole like they've seen happen in London.
But Matt, a couple of years ago, you have people burning down entire cities, and CNN is it's most of the
Mostly
time
peaceful.
even peaceful as shit is burning down around them. And you have the what Chaz and Chop whatever, where people are dying and they won't let ambulances in.
No.
But no, these people that are peacefully protesting have bombs thrown in on their protest are somehow the bad guys. But well, with all of this going on, here's this out of Virginia. I'm going to share it, Matt. Let me know if you can hear it. You should be able to, but let me know because you definitely need to hear this. So This
Yeah.
is Virginia Senator Scott Survell talking about this gun ban that just passed in Virginia and what you're allowed to keep. The government, what property of yours the government is going to allow you to keep.
Mm-hmm.
You have an assault rifle?
Can you hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
You can keep it. If you have an assault pistol, if you want to have one of these pistols with a silencer on it and a pistol grip in the front, really big pistol, if you want to have one with a telescope on it or lasers or whatever else you want, that's okay. Just can't buy a new one, and you can't sell it to anybody. If you want to have a magazine with more than 15 bullets, you can keep that too. Just can't buy a new one. And if you have an assault rifle, you can keep it.
So if you want to keep your pistol with the thing and the telescope and the laser,
telescope and laser
you
and the big old suppressor, you can keep. Yeah,
and again,
you just can't buy a new one. You can't sell. Hey, you know, here's the deal with all of this. If anybody believes that you can keep your shit, because in a year from now they're going to come after your shit. Period. Amen.
Well,
you ain't gonna be able to keep your shit.
One of the videos I watched, because I had seen this clip in another video talking about this. I was trying to find it. And one of the clips that I found in talking about and trying to find this was a senator saying, how are you going to enforce this? If you come across somebody that has an AR-15, how are you going to enforce this? How are you going to know if this one is a before or an after, when this person bought it? What? So it's like, I'm going to have to prove myself innocent. Or as far as you're going to confiscate my property until you're able to determine something. I mean, I've got ARs I've had for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you when I bought it. I sure don't have a receipt for it.
Can you buy parts to replace the stuff that breaks in it? How is that being looked at by this legislation? How is that being looked at? If parts break in your property, can you replace those parts? No, you're not going to be able to get it because he basically said you can't buy new ones. You can't buy new magazines that hold more than 15 bullets. These people, first of all, how in the hell, the problem is all the government agencies, all the people that work for these federal agencies in Washington, D.C. that are way overbloated, that have been basically weaponized against the American people by the left. All of these people live in Northern Virginia, okay?
Yep.
And then they also flooded illegals into Northern Virginia, and this is what you get. This is what you get in Virginia. That used to be a solid red state. And this is when we don't pay attention to what's going on. And when we look the other way and we allow it and we back down because we get called names, this is what happens. We lose a state. And pretty soon we're going to lose the country.
Well,
look at Great Britain.
I can't, it blows my mind. You know, and again, we're getting off track here a little bit. One of the big things in the past few months has been the gerrymandering of voting districts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, it should be, and
Virginia is one of them.
Not as simple as this, but if there is 45% of the population of state Q is Republican, then the district should be laid out as such that there is, at a minimum, 45% representation in the government.
No, but now you have foreign-born. Now you have foreign-born individuals getting elected into these state congressional seats, right? That are gerrymandering the state to prevent you from getting representation within that state. And Stu's saying, I think Virginia, if you go down, I think it's a 50-50 state as far as Republican versus Democrat, right? So they're not going to have any Republican representation, and they're going to redistrict everything so they don't have any Republican representation. And you're going to say, oh, but they did that in Texas. Every liberal state has done this. Texas
Yeah.
is the only one that kicked back on this. And if the Democrats are going to do it, we have to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Or we're going to lose
New
our
England's
country.
been doing it for decades. But
Yeah.
how does anything pass any sort of legal or constitutional scrutiny when a state effectively gerrymanders out the entirety of the other party? There's no way. None
You
whatsoever.
would think California has no conservatives in it. California has a huge, it used to be a red state, has a huge
Yeah.
population of conservatives. It's just not the major metropolitan areas. It's all in the outlying areas. They have zero representation within their federal government.
And what
Zero
they've
or with
done
their
is
state government.
they've
Yeah.
gerrymandered it to where these, more residential areas are part of a segment of the city state, to where, okay, well, we're covering this big section of the map, but it's more of a rural area, but we can offset that with the smaller section of Los Angeles that has, 150 bajillion people.
Mhm.
So we're going to look like on a map, we're covering all this section, but, people per square mile, it
Dude,
isn't.
you look at Illinois, because I grew up in Illinois, right? I grew up in Chicago. The only place that's lefty in Illinois is Chicago, basically.
Yeah.
The rest of the state is red, right? They gerrymandered that whole state just because the population is Chicago. It's insane. It's absolutely insane, and it's not right. And I tell you what, you saw these deep state rhinos in Indiana refuse to gerrymander Indiana, and now they let Virginia come in, and they gerrymander Virginia after the Democrats have done this everywhere. If the Republicans would do it in Republican states, because we're still close, right? But if we would do it in Republican states, then guess what? You just took all of the lefties' power against them, because there's more conservative states than there are liberal states. That's the way it is. So the problem is, a lot of these liberal states have huge populations, and this is why they want the illegals, because they count the illegals in this. How that ever was allowed, right? They count the illegals in the census, so they get more representation. That's why California has sanctuary cities and Illinois have sanctuary. That's why they do it. They are replacing you.
Here you go, Matt. So
Yeah.
you tell me this isn't designed when you've got this District 13 right here.
Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah.
How was that not designed for a purpose, a
Yes.
specific and distinct purpose?
Exactly. So, anyways, well, we got off the subject a little bit, but it tied into everything else. It tied into everything else we were talking about.
We do.
And
We do.
yeah. So I'm glad you got to join in towards halfway in the show, D. And I hope you had
I'm glad
big
everybody got to experience me for the evening.
Oh
That's-
yeah, they're thrilled with that.
I mean,
but
I know you guys were worried. I made it. You were able to partake.
well, how was that bathhouse you were checking out?
It wasn't bad. Not bad. A little humid, a little too steamy. Couldn't quite see what I wanted to see, but take the good with the bad.
Oh man. Well, we appreciate everybody joining us here again tonight. We thank you more than anything. I want to welcome Danny.
Hold on a second, Matt. In talking about the firearms thing, Freedom says the Court of Appeals in D.C. ruled, and again, I don't know if this was before or after this whole stuff Virginia did. And we've already got the decision, which means you can't restrict something in common use that hasn't stopped Virginia. But
most popular rifle in the country, by the way, AR-15.
yeah, he said the Court of Appeals in D.C. ruled that a ban on firearm magazines that are able to hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition was unconstitutional. And it really, I wish there were a way to financially penalize the party and or the person that puts forth these bills that are blatantly unconstitutional, because again, we already have the Heller decision, which the Supreme Court has come down and said that, you know, this, you have to show that there is a history, or, you know, it has to be within the founding documents, that something that's been done. You have to show that it has a historical precedent, and there isn't one. You know, and again, I'm sorry, the country's 250 years old. Historical precedent is not what you've been trying to do for the past 15. You can fuck right off with that. But, you know, with the Heller decision, I don't see how this stands. But the problem is, you know, somebody is going to have to stand up and take that first arrow, which could conceivably destroy their lives and financial and, you know, livelihood, in order to get the lawsuit in place to go against their own state.
Well, speaking of
And
that,
it,
and you know, when you said that right there, I started the whole SCIF off with this, that we have a president in place now that is fighting everybody, including the Republican Party. Okay, the
Yeah.
establishment within the Republican Party, and he's not a leader that has kicked the problems of Iran. Trump didn't have to, he'd had Iran neutered. Okay, he didn't have to get involved with this, but he's doing it because it's for the betterment of the world and our country. And he's one of the only presidents we've had that's willing to take the arrows and to do things that are truly for the best interest of the people. We haven't had leaders like this. And if you turn your back on him, shame on you. Because right now, Trump needs our support. He's got our support. He does.
Well, one of the things, and it may depend on the district and federal or state or whatever. One of the things that frustrates me to no end is a law will be passed that is blatantly unconstitutional, whatever, and someone will challenge it, and the court will say, like a lot of the ATF stuff, with the way the ATF does things, somebody will challenge it. Well, you have not been charged with the crime yet or arrested, so you have no standing.
Yeah.
It's like, so I have to actually, you know, nuke my life. And, or, I mean, again, my job, my everything, you know, I have to destroy that in order to stand up against an unconstitutional law. No, I shouldn't have to destroy my life as a United States citizen.
Exactly.
To object to the fact that this law is not constitutional. I shouldn't have to take and show that, you know, the ATF has arrested me for a suppressor or an SBR or whatever, and go, you know, federally pound me in the ass prison for 3 years and file a, you know, it's like, are you kidding? What the fuck? What? And it absolutely just, oh, it grinds my gears in the worst way.
Well, before we get Stu off on another tangent, okay, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight.
Had like 20 minutes. I apologize. I only had 20 minutes in my defense.
So I want to thank you all for joining us. More than anything, I want to thank you for being patriots. Thank you for finding this show, because it's difficult to find on YouTube, especially. Thank you for joining and taking the time. Thank you for taking part in the show. And please join us next Tuesday, where both of us should be here the whole show. And I know that, you know, sometimes I'm here, sometimes Stu's here. We go through that, but we manage it, right? So, thank you for Troy for jumping in when he does. And
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So please go out and contact the SAVE Act. That is your homework. Please go out and push, get a hold of senators, tell people about it, get a hold of the Senate, right? Make this a big deal. Do not let the rhinos get away with killing this intentionally. And that's how they're going to do it. Okay. Do not let them get away with this. So that being said, live in freedom every day. Stu, do you have anything you want to follow up with?
Well, I was waiting for you to thank me for my participation.
Yeah, thank you for thank you for. I'm going to get you a little trophy. Okay. Would you like a participation trophy?
I would. I would. I grew up in an era where there weren't participation trophies. You just simply went home. But
You sound like
thank you,
Mark
everyone.
Levin now. Thank me. Thank me.
No, again, Cindy's saying, I believe Thune is blocking it from going to vote, saying it's not a real movement among the people.
Yeah, but Thune is a liar.
Yeah,
And
because you're right. The majority of America doesn't want to make sure that the people that are voting for their leadership look at this Bangladeshi that is stripping rights from Virginians. Yeah, we want to make sure that the people that are voting are legitimate.
Yeah.
Why would we?
John Thune is illegitimate. He's been illegitimate from the first. He is Mitch McConnell Jr. He's his boy, and they're doing this. Do not let him get away with this. In fact, if he does this, there should be a recall in the state of South Dakota. Period.
It amazes me how I don't know. I just nobody else in South Dakota. Do I need to move to South Dakota? How many people are there? Like 132 or something? I mean, do I need to move to South Dakota and get elected because this guy? I mean, really?
He's a disgrace. He's an absolute disgrace.
I know you're not a huge population base, but
yeah.
If this is the best you have, I shudder at the remainder. It's scary.
Well, we could be here all night because now it starts making me think of the behavior or the treatment that Kristi Noem received last week, and I have a whole rant on that because I think she was treated terribly, to be honest with you. And Republicans, like fake Republican Tom Tillis, were leading the brunt of that. Anyways, we're done with the show tonight, guys. Thank you for joining. Please be back. Thanks, Dan and Cindy, to have you here again. It's been a while. Thank you. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for joining it. Like Matt said, it should be the both of us from beginning to end next week. You know, we love doing this show, but sometimes the commitments that keep the lights on and food in the freezer take precedence. So we try and cover down for one another. But
absolutely.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you, and we will be here next week.
Live in freedom every day.